Have you ever wondered about the economic journey of Italy? It all started with ancient Rome, a civilization that thrived on trade, agriculture, and conquest. Rome's economy was robust, built upon a network of bustling markets, fertile farmlands, and the spoils of war from far-flung territories. Yet, all empires have their twilight, and as the Roman Empire crumbled, so did its economic might. With the fall of the Roman Empire, Italy's economy fragmented, leading us into the early Middle Ages. The early Middle Ages saw Italy's economy fragment, a stark contrast from the thriving trade and agriculture of the Roman Empire. Yet, this period of fragmentation was not to last. As we venture into the High Middle Ages, we see a resurgence of trade and commerce, particularly in northern Italy. This revival breathed new life into the Italian economy, setting the stage for what was to come. This resurgence in trade and commerce set the stage for the Renaissance, a golden age for banking and finance. The Renaissance turned Florence into the center of banking and finance, with the Medici family leading the way. This period, spanning from the 14th to the 16th century, saw an economic boom. Banking and finance flourished, driven in large part by the influential Medici family. Their innovation and business acumen turned Florence into an economic powerhouse, and their patronage of the arts helped spawn a cultural revolution. Yet, as we transition into the 17th century, the tides began to turn. Political fragmentation and foreign domination cast long shadows over Italy. These factors hindered economic growth, causing a period of stagnation that marked a stark contrast to the prosperity of the Renaissance. Despite the stagnation, the 18th century brought about agricultural reforms, infrastructural improvements, and the spread of Enlightenment ideas. The 18th century saw significant agricultural reforms and infrastructural improvements, yet the peninsula remained politically divided and economically uneven. As Italy transitioned into the 19th century, it was a period of turmoil and transformation. The early 1800s were dominated by the Napoleonic Wars, which brought about significant political changes and disrupted the economy. However, it was also a time of opportunity as the path to national unification began to take shape. In 1861, Italy was unified. This monumental event created a single national market, a first in Italian history, and opened up a new era of economic possibilities. The focus of economic policies shifted towards creating a well-integrated economy, and infrastructure became the cornerstone of these efforts. Railways started crisscrossing the country, connecting cities and regions, and playing a vital role in integrating the economy. As the century progressed, Italy embarked on the path of industrialization. This was especially evident in the north, where cities like Turin, Milan, and Genoa emerged as industrial powerhouses. Factories sprang up, churning out goods for both domestic use and export. The north buzzed with activity, and the promise of jobs lured many from the rural areas, leading to a significant urban population shift. However, this newfound prosperity was not evenly distributed. The south remained predominantly agrarian, with a large portion of its population still dependent on farming. The lack of infrastructure and investment led to the south lagging behind the north in terms of development. This created a dual economy within Italy, a trend that would persist well into the 20th century. The 19th century was a time of great change for Italy. It moved from being a collection of fragmented states to a unified nation, embarked on the journey of industrialization, and faced the challenges of economic disparity. It was a period that laid the foundation for the Italy we know today. While the north industrialized, the south remained agrarian and underdeveloped, leading to Italy's dual economy. The early 20th century was a time of economic instability, high inflation, and unemployment, exacerbated by the world wars and the Great Depression. These were challenging times for Italy and indeed the world. In the wake of World War I, Italy grappled with an unstable economy. High inflation and unemployment rates reigned, and the Italian lira lost its value. The nation's industries, which had expanded during the war, found themselves grappling with overproduction and a sudden severe drop in demand. Emerging from these turbulent times was Benito Mussolini, who rose to power in the 1920s. Mussolini introduced a corporatist economic model which aimed to manage and control the economy through state-mediated negotiations between employer and employee associations. This system sought to stabilize the economy and curb class conflict, but in reality, it largely favored the interests of the industrialists and the wealthy. The 30s brought with them the Great Depression, a global economic downturn that did not spare Italy. The nation's fragile economy was hit hard. However, in an attempt to revive it, Mussolini launched public works programs and implemented autarkic policies. These policies aimed to make Italy economically self-sufficient and independent from foreign influence, but they also isolated the nation and hindered economic growth. The 40s ushered in World War II, which wreaked havoc on Italy's infrastructure and economy. The war left the nation in ruins, its industries destroyed, and its economy severely disrupted. The cost of the war, coupled with the loss of life and the destruction of infrastructure, plunged Italy into a state of economic despair. But as the saying goes, it's always darkest before the dawn. The post-war period required extensive reconstruction, setting the stage for Italy's economic miracle. This period of turmoil and upheaval was not the end for Italy, but rather the beginning of a new chapter in its economic history. It was a chapter that would see Italy rise from the ashes of war and depression to become one of the world's leading economies. But that, dear listeners, is a story for another time. The post-war period marked Italy's economic miracle, with rapid industrial growth, modernization, and urbanization. The 1950s and 1960s were a time of economic marvel, as the country's GDP growth rates averaged around 6% annually. By 1960, the GDP had reached $40 billion with a growth rate of 8.3%. A decade later, in 1970, the GDP had tripled to $120 billion, albeit with a slightly slower growth rate of 5.6%. Yet this rapid growth was not to last. The 1970s ushered in a period of economic stagnation and inflation, largely due to the global oil crisis. By 1975, Italy's GDP had ballooned to $320 billion, but growth had slowed to a mere 3%. The country's economic landscape was turbulent, to say the least. However, the 1980s brought with them a wave of economic reforms and the beginnings of European integration. These changes helped to stabilize the economy, leading to growth in industrial production and exports. By 1985, Italy's GDP had nearly doubled to $600 billion, and the growth rate had slightly improved to 2.8%. Despite the challenges, Italy benefited from European Union integration and the introduction of the euro in the 1990s. The 1990s saw Italy facing high public debt and slow growth, but benefiting from European Union integration and the introduction of the euro. This period was a time of significant change, as Italy grappled with the challenges of a new economic landscape. The integration into the European Union brought about many benefits, including increased trade and investment. However, the introduction of the euro also brought about its own set of challenges, such as the need for fiscal discipline and greater economic coordination with other European countries. Transitioning into the new millennium, the Italian economy faced a series of global financial crises. High public debt became a pressing issue, slowing down economic growth. Despite these challenges, Italy demonstrated resilience, maneuvering through these economic hurdles. Then in 2020, the world was hit by an unforeseen crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic. Like many countries, Italy's economy took a severe blow. Lockdown measures brought the country to a standstill, causing a contraction in the economy. The GDP plummeted to $1.65 trillion, with a negative growth of 8.9%. An unprecedented situation, it tested the resilience of Italy's economy and its people. However, as we moved into 2023, signs of recovery began to show. The Italian economy started to bounce back, boosted by European Union recovery funds and a series of economic reforms. The GDP rose to $2.1 trillion, with a growth rate of 3.67%. It was a testament to Italy's resilience and its ability to adapt and recover in the face of adversity. Throughout its history, Italy's economy has been shaped by its political landscape, from ancient Rome's vast empire to the modern republic's challenges and resilience in a globalized world. The story of Italy's economy is one of resilience, adaptation, and continuous evolution. It reminds us that while economies may face challenges, they also possess the capacity to recover, adapt, and grow.